Hello there, and now you've got your anthology in front of you with Autonomy in Theory Pro and Con. Before you look at the video of me talking through some of the things that you can use in terms of implications and examples, here are, just to run through and just to confirm, the four key sections of firstly the UT part and secondly the intuitionism part. Now if you get a passage on this in the exam, it will likely be the two large paragraphs together because they're making one coherent point. As such, I don't think you should underline just one sentence here, but a subsection I will show you. So, from this point here, it says Bentham's UT theory led to some new questions. The principles seem to yield moral conclusions strongly at odds with common sense convictions. And despite Bentham's claim that it could be used for decision making, and here's really the key point, it seemed to call for calculations ordinary people could not make. That, to my mind, is the first key point. The second then goes on to talk about John Stuart Mill, and then it would then be all of the rest of this, so you can quote any of the rest of this. And some of the key points in here are, he said, we all learn common sense morality as children, except in except direct appeal to this principle of utility. There's direct appeal to this principle of utility. But in those cases, common sense itself is apt to be undecided. UT so interpreted would not lead to conclusions that common sense finds unacceptable. So no appeal to intuitively grasp non-utilitarian principles is needed to explain moral principles. And then he talks about us being fully autonomous down here. So this is key point one. Bentham, complex calculations at odds with common sense morality. John Stuart Mill developing, trying to reconcile the two using this principle of utility. So that's key point one, key point two. Key point three then, as I've shown by the arrows here, key point three, it says UT continue to attempt to derive principles of right action entirely from the consideration of the good that right actions bring about. Now we're familiar with this argument because this is consequentialism. So that, I think, is the next key point. Both Mill and Bentham, even though they have different view of happiness and pleasure, still held that good essentially a matter of satisfying principles and preferences from person to person. Now, it's about what is good derived from outcome or from goal. The final key point then, I think, starts from here, and it could be quoted any of this. It says, intuitionists in opposition held that principles of right action could not simply be derived from a consideration of principles of what people actually want. So it's the reverse, if you like. The premise, whatever people want is good, must be added. So it's having a go at UT. And in fact, intuitionists held not everything people want is good. That's an important point. And we see Reed here again. There are self-evident principles requiring justice as well as such as benevolence. Blah, 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 blah. And so here the key point is intuitionism having a go at UT. So that's the final key point. The second subsection, i.e. all of this, is what I think you get in the exam as an intuitionism toward autonomy Schneewind passage. I don't think you get either separately. So I'll try and give you roughly four key sections that you talk about in the exam. I think the first is this William Whewell, who's was the most distinguished Christian intuitionist, trying to defend the Christian ethic against the UT claim that the point of morality was to produce worldly happiness for all. But their intuitionism allowed each person had the ability to know what morality requires. So basically this first part of this key point is this outline of basic intuitionism. And then that is versus Henry Sidgwick. Tried to show the intuitionist view about the foundations of morality could serve the UT view about its point, but he said that intuitionism needed UT because it would be useless otherwise in settling moral disputes. So he's trying to reconcile the two. So key point 1, key point 2. Key point 3 is this one about Franz Brentano, Max Scheler, blah 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 blah. Actually, these two I think probably could be amalgamated. This whole thing could probably be amalgamated into one key point. Is intuitionism or UT? Which would win? UT or intuitionism? Or can the two be reconciled? I think that would be one whole key section, although large, to debate. Should they be reconciled? Are they separate? Let's call it the second key point then, here. This idea that through feeling we have access to a realm of real values. Sorry about the rough underlining. And they spelled out structures and hierarchies that objectively exist. These values show the content of the good, and ultimately set the direction for right action. So it's intuitionism, but talking about this realm of real values. So that's the next key point. I think the third key point is, as the arrows indicate, GE more. And this idea, knowledge of values could not be derived from knowledge of facts. Yellow is yellow, and that's the end of it. But only from intuition of goodness, such as beauty, pleasure, blah, 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 blah. And the final key points is right at the bottom here, and this is going to screw up all of my underlining, I think. Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay. And the final key points is this final sentence, this fourth key point, is that intuitionism still has no method for settling disagreements. And I think this is actually Schneewind's argument. He doesn't like intuitionism, he doesn't like UT, but he thinks that intuitionism is pointless and UT perhaps has more merit. So there are your key points. Now you can watch the video of me talking about some things that might relate to them.